Welcome and welcome to everybody online. And today's seminar is on the power of passion. And this is from a lecture from Master Okawa that he gave in 1990. So it's we're still looking at these original lecture series that Master Okawa gave when he was really laying down the foundation of the teachings. I mean, I love all the teachings, and as we progress and as we look at all the different teachings from Master Okawa over the years, sometimes it's maybe a little hard to keep up, but the progress of the teachings advanced from this original time when it was really teaching a lot about Buddhism and the essence of Buddhism, and then he started teaching a lot about faith, and then he started teaching about the laws of the universe. And in that laws of the universe, started teaching about life on other planets and the way that different people live, and the different types of thinking of different types of being, and why this earth is a valuable place for soul training, and even how many souls from different planets came to earth to create one big spirit group that could learn from each other, because by having different ways of thinking of different souls from throughout the universe coming here to the earth, it gives us such a vast array of ways of thinking from so many different souls. So it's quite incredible how the different teachings over time, and then of course he started teaching even about politics. What is ideal politics? And to be honest, looking at the world today, I think the teaching on ideal politics is really needed in the world today. You look at what's happening, places like in America are really going down at the moment. You look at what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. Look at what's happening in China now with revolution happening there and people protesting. All around the world is really needed a teaching on politics, because I feel like the politicians are really letting people down. The politicians have become greedy for power and wanting to control the people. And we saw that even with the coronavirus. I mean, now there's a lot of information coming out showing that more people are dying from that were vaccinated after now than there were that weren't vaccinated. So, and now the people being questioned, like Fauci, about masks, and he's not able to show where he had the proof that masks actually work. So there was all this strong power to make people do things, but it's now being shown that maybe that wasn't the right choices. And the problem was, back at that time, we didn't have free will. The greatest gift God gave humans was free will. We can think, speak, and act however we like. There's always going to be consequences, but that's a wonderful thing. We're given as free will. And governments all around the world were taking that away from people. I mean, in Canada, we saw when the truckers were being told to wear masks driving their trucks. For goodness sake, why would you have to wear a mask while you're driving your truck? And because some of the rules are so ridiculous, they decided to do a protest and all drive their trucks into the center of one of Canada's cities. And then even into America. But, the government did things like force companies to stop payments to them, threaten the truckers, and really disrupt their lives, really, and make it almost impossible for them to be able to protest. And this is wrong. When governments get so much power that they can stop people from venting their dissatisfaction. So Master's teaching really it covers everything, including the politics. So some people don't like the idea that Master teaches politics as well as religion. They say, oh, we should keep them separate. But he's always said that politics and religion are like two sides of the same coin. Religion teaches people how to make the most out of your soul training while living in this world. Politics is supposed to be able to create the environment where people can get the most out of their soul training. So if you're living in a world or in a country where there's no religions allowed and you're told exactly how you have to live and how you have to act, there's no free will, so people don't get a chance to really truly practice their soul training and become the best they can be. So yeah, both are important, politics and religion. Okay, well, let's listen to the first excerpt from Master here on the power of passion. And as we go through, I've taken excerpts, quite a few excerpts. The lecture itself was close to an hour's long. I've got about 45 minutes of excerpts because it's such a great lecture. And today we're really blessed because Eri did, a while back, she did voiceovers. So recently we've been having just the subtitles, but today we're blessed. We have the subtitle and the voiceover. So please enjoy.
First and foremost, there is one thing that I would like to tell you. As I mentioned in my first lecture of this year, at Makuhari Messe,
講演会でも少し触れましたけれども、人間にとって
the most important
一
thing
番
for human beings
大切な
is
こととは信仰心であ
faith.
るということなのです。私はこの話を
I gave myself a period of 3 years for
3年の準備
preparation
期間を
before I began talking about faith.
そしてその前には
And, needless to say,
さらに探求の時期
there
があ
was
っ
a
たので
period of 6 years of further exploration before that.
この一番
Some people may wonder
信仰
why
心という
I
話
took so
を
long to talk about this most
なぜ
important
それを
subject.
までに時間をかけたかとお疑いになる方もいらっしゃるでしょう。しかし、
But
こ
this
れ
is
だけは言っ
something
ておかねばなりませ
I
ん。
must teach all of you.
今、日本の
Nowadays,
地において
people are filled with
広まっている
suspicion and
考え方は
doubt.
非常に疑いに満ち、猜疑に満ち、他の人々から
Many people
騙されまいと
are highly protective of themselves
そのように自らを守らんとする
and are
人たち
extremely cautious
考えが
of being
蔓
deceived
延
by
してい
others.
ることであります。幸いに
Fortunately, however,
地方に講演
when
に
I
参り
come
ま
to
すと
lecture in rural
状
areas,
況は変わります。一人一人の方と
even
お
though
話は
I
しない
cannot talk with
までも
each one of you,
皆さんの
I can feel
考えておら
what
れる
you
こと
are
が
thinking.
伝わってまいります。東北の
I can
皆
feel
さんは
that the
最も
souls of the people
大切なものを最も大切なもの
have
とし
the
て
potential
素
to
直に
accept
受け
what
止め
is
るだけの
most important.
魂の記事というものがあると私は感じるのであります。それは素晴らしいこと
This
で
is
す。
wonderful
他の何
and
者にも
nothing
代え難い
can replace
素
it.
晴らしいことであるのです。いかに今流行りの
People seem
考
to
え
show
方
off through
ファッショ
fashion
ン
and popular
やそのような
ways
もの
of
の中
thinking.
で自分を飾ってみたところで一番大切な
not knowing
ことさえ
what is most
知らずに
important in
生
life.
きている人たちのなんと
How shallow
浅く
and frivolous
薄っぺらく
they
見
seem.
えることでありましょうか。たとえ都
Even
会の
if
人々からは
people from the cities think
疑うことを知らない、
those from the
素朴で
countryside
時には愚直に見えるような
and
態度を
naive,
とっているとしても、それを恥じる
there is
必要は
no
ない
need
と
to be ashamed about it.
素直で
It is because of your pure heart
信ずることができ
that
る
you are able to believe
この一番大事なことが
and
できることで
practice
す。
what is most
これは
important.
断じて
You must
恥
not
じ
be
ては
ashamed
な
of
りません。
this.
何を信ずるか
Then what do you believe
言う
in?
までもありません。
The answer should be obvious.
一番簡
Our
単なこと
starting
です。
point is the simplest
この世
truth
を
that
作ら
in
れ
this great universe,
私たちを
God exists.
見守っておられる大宇宙の
He created this
神がい
world
らっしゃるということ。
and is watching
そ
over
して
us.
私たち
And we, human beings,
神
are
の
children
作られ
created by God.
た子供であるということ。この単純な事実から
The majority of people
いたします。
cannot
そしてこの
believe these simple words of
わず
truth
か
of just one
一行にも
sentence.
True, isn't it? The world is full of so much suspicion and doubt. And people who have faith are sometimes thought of as being odd or strange because it can't be proven scientifically. And actually, just quickly too, I'll just mention today's lecture seminar is on this beginning of passion, even though I've called it the power of passion. It was a phrase that Master used here, later on in here. So I made the title The Power of Passion, but the original name of the lecture that Master gave was called Beginning from Passion, and this booklet is available. So Master said here, the most important thing for human beings is faith. And this is the thing that's been mostly lost in the world today. You know, the number of people who have real faith in God and have an interest in pursuing faith and deepening faith, unfortunately, is declining. He said, nowadays people are filled with suspicion and doubt. And it really is true. And I think that's also one of the reasons why it's so hard to spread a new teaching like Happy Science. When we look at the teachings of Happy Science, they're very logical. John and I were talking about this before. The teachings that Master gives, there's nothing strange about them. It just uses the law of cause and effect, which is always the essence of Buddhist teaching. So even though these teachings are very clear and very logical, even then it's hard for people to actually just listen with an open mind and get away from the doubt and the suspicion that is there. So Master said, he said, then what do you believe in, or what do we believe in? You know, he said, our starting point, he said, our starting point is the simplest truth, that in this great universe, God exists. He created this world and is watching over us, and we, human beings, are children created by God. Such a simple, straight, how straight is that? Okay, so simple and so straight. In the great universe, God exists. So the very starting point there is, even now there's a lot of people who want to believe in science. They say, well, you can't prove God exists. Prove to me God exists. Well, I have to say in return, prove to me God doesn't exist. Wouldn't it be safer to prove God doesn't exist before you choose not to believe in God? Wouldn't that be a more logical perspective? So you cannot prove God doesn't exist. So please don't try to expect someone else to try to prove God does exist. And he says he created this world, and not just this world, but this whole universe, and is watching over us. And we human beings are children created by God. Yeah. So even this very, very basic truth, if the people of the world, if this was the foundation for people's belief, everything would change. We're talking at the very beginning here about politics. If people believed that God exists, he created this world, was watching over us, and we're all children of God, and even as a politician say, I'm here to try to help bring about God's world, God's thinking into this world, the ideal world that God would wish is my job to help try to bring that into this world, that would change everything too. We spoke at the very beginning about how in the world today, politics is so weak and so poor because people just seem to be out trying to gain power over people. Yeah, so yeah, he said the majority of people cannot believe these simple words of truth of just one sentence. That just shows how far the world has gone away from the genuine heart of having a pure heart and being able to just feel the truth and feel what's right. And people have become really caught up in their clever minds, the small mind, and the materialistic thinking. And if science can't prove it, it can't be true. Yeah, so let's listen to the next excerpt here from Master.
しかし、考
However,
えてもみてください。
there is something that I want you to think about.
人間が偶然に出来上がり、
If human beings
そして
had been created by accident
偶然に出来上がった
and were beings
のみならず、
with no soul,
ちょうどゼンマイ仕掛けの人形か何かのように、魂なく
moving
動
like
いているだけ
wind
の
up toys,
存在だと考えを前提にするならば、そこに
how could
どうして愛が生まれて
love
きましょうか。
exist
お互いに
if human beings were no more than
物質
lumps
の
of
塊である
matter
というならば、物質が
moving
ゼンマイ仕
like
掛けのように動い
wind
て
up
いるというだ
toys?
けであるならば、そこに
There is no
愛
way
が生まれる
that
はずも
love could exist.
ありません。愛だけではありません。
Not only
もっと
love,
素晴らしい
but all the wonderful,
人
humane,
間的な
and noble
多
emotions,
くの高貴な感情はすべて
are
魂
attributes
の
of the
属
soul.
性であるのです。美しさを見て感
The
動する
mind that is moved
心、
by beauty,
誠実さを見て
pleased
喜
to
ぶ
see sincerity,
心、素直さを見て
finds
尊
nobility
いと思う
in innocence,
そして
and is
自らの
touched
命を
to see people who live
問わずに
for God.
神のために生きていく人たちを見た時のその感動は有物的な
Does
もの
not
の見方
arise
からは
from a materialistic way of thinking.
出ないのであります。有物的なものの見方からは
From materialistic
質が
thinking,
溢れ環境が良
it's
くなれば
possible to believe
人間は幸福
that
を
we
取
can
り
get happiness when we have abundant things
しか
and a
し
good environment.
環境は恵まれずとも
However,
物質は
seeing
恵ま
people
れず
who are
とも
not blessed with an ideal
人とし
environment
て
or
魂
abundant
の
material
喜びの中
possessions,
に生きている
but who
人
are
たちが
enjoying life
いる
and
事
whose
実を
souls
見るに
feel
つけても
happiness.
そんなものは
The idea that
真実では
happiness
あ
is
りえない。
dependent on
そんな
material
思想は
factors
真実では
cannot
ありえない
be
と
true.
思うのであります。他の人々が
It is because we think that other people are also
神の
beings
作られた
created by God
存在であると思うからこそ人を
that it
愛する
becomes
喜びが
natural and
当然の
important
ことで
to love others.
値打ちのあることとなるわけです。そして神が
By believing
宇宙を作られ
that God
人間た
created
ち
the
を作られ
universe and
今
human
も
beings,
なお見ておられる
and that He is
信
still
ずることが
watching
ど
over
れ
us,
ほどまでに私たちの生き
our
方
way
を
of living
素晴らしい
can be
ものと
transformed
変えてい
into
るで
something
しょうか。
wonderful.
その目があるからこそ
It is because
大いなるものが
God's eyes
見続け
exist,
ているという考え、熱い眼差しを
and because we think the divine is always watching over us.
確かな手応えがあるからこそ私たちは
That we discipline ourselves
自ら
daily
を律し素晴らしき人間と
and
な
make
っ
an effort
ていくために
to transform
自己
ourselves
を
to become
改革に
wonderful people.
励むのではないでしょうか。私はそう思います。もし皆さんが
If you were just an object created out of scrap material,
ゴミのごとき物質が集まってできた存在であるならば、皆さんに己の
I would
姿を
never
変
ask
えよう
you
とは
to
私は
change
申しま
yourself,
せん。皆様に理想を
to
持て
hold
とは
ideals
申しま
and
せん。
dreams,
皆様に他
Nor
の人
would
に
I
優し
ask
くせよ
you
とは申しません。
to be kind to others.
真実は
But the truth is
神が
that
人間を
God
作られ
created us
そして見守っ
and
て
is
おられると
watching
いう
over
こと
us.
であり、この事実を受け入れた
There is
ところで
nothing to trouble us
何
in
一つ
accepting this truth.
私たちが困ることはないのであります。その事実を受け入
The
れ
only
て困る
ones
人
who have
間は
problems accepting this
生きている間に
are perhaps those who had caused problems for others
やり
in
た
the
い
way
放題
they
の
live,
ことをし、他の人々に迷惑をかけてい
who have lived
く人たちだけであ
egocentrically
るはずです。
in the
彼
way
らは
they
恐れるに
desired.
足るでしょう。その後の人生を死んで何もかもなくなると
They
思え
lived
ば
so ruthlessly
そのような生き方が
because
で
they
きるのであり
believe
まし
that
ょう。
after death
死んで
nothing
なく
will
ならない
remain.
としたならば、
If they
死
thought
んで
life
後
after
に
death existed, it
命
would be
が
quite
ある
hard
とする
for
ならば
these people.
大変なことであります。そのような無軌道な生き方を
Those who live recklessly have
彼
reason
らは
enough
真に恐れてよいでしょう。真に信ずると
to
いう
be
ことを
afraid
恐
of
れて
believing this
いい
truth
だけ
about
の
this
理由があ
other
ると
world.
言えましょう。けれども、
However,
人間として
if you have already been
その存在が
forgiven in order to exist
是と
as a
され
human being
また他の人
who
々も
others feel grateful to share a life with,
こういう
then
人と一緒
faith
に生きて
should
いて
naturally be
よかった
accepted
と
proudly.
言われるような人であるならば、この信仰を
Faith
当然のことと
is
受け止めて
wonderful.
何ら恥じること
It
は
is
ない
nothing to feel
はずであ
ashamed
り
of.
ます。そしてそれは素晴らしいことです。皆様に
No
今
matter
どの
who you
ような
are,
姿として自分が出ていたとしても、本来神
if
の
you
子とし
think
て
that you have infinite
作られた
potential
存
as a
在であるな
being
らば、
created by
無限
God,
の可能性がある
as a
のだ。
child of God,
まだまだ
or
自
if you
分は
think
磨い
that you
ていけ
can
ば使って
shine
いけ
more
るのだと
brilliantly
思
by
えるからこ
refining
そ
yourself,
個人としても素晴らしくなり、社会としても
you
素
and
晴らし
society
く
can
なっ
both
ていく
be
ので
all
あり
the
ます。
more remarkable.
そうです。これは
This is the
どうしても
first gate you
この
must
越えねば
pass
な
through.
らない最初の関門であるのです。
Just looking at that picture there, Jay, when they went to the audience and we saw, this is 1990, so only after 4 years of Masters preaching. And I was just thinking about when you went to Tokyo Dome and you see that little audience there and how much it grew in such a short period of time. That's even by 1990, actually by 1991, Master gave the lecture in Tokyo Dome. So it grew to 50,000 people very quickly. And I know you've experienced going to Tokyo Dome and seeing the huge audience there. And actually just listening to this word here, I know, look, I know you two have been through some challenges recently. And when you hear Master talking here about the people who most fear the fact that there's life after death and that we have to face our consequences of the way we live in this world, when people don't have faith, they think they can do anything. They think that in this world, it's all just about taking from other people and doesn't matter as long as I win, doesn't matter if other people lose, doesn't matter if I hurt them, it doesn't matter. And this is why faith is so important, because the truth is the other world does exist. And if people knew the truth and lived by the truth, they'd be very careful about how they lived. So faith is such an important thing for humans to actually have, A, for themselves, so they live in the right way, but also B, so that they don't hurt other people, because then people think about the consequences of how they act, and they want to make sure they live in a way that doesn't hurt others. So Master said here, if human beings have been created by accident and were beings with no soul, moving like wind-up toys, how could love exist? You know, this is almost the perfect answer to what we were talking about a second ago about how can you prove that God exists? The fact that love exists means there's something beyond just being material. There's something else. You know, for instance, if we take this table here, or this computer here, or this book here. You know, this book, or my phone, this case, glass case, can they feel? Can they feel? They don't have life, right? They don't have life. They cannot feel. They don't have any emotions. So all these inanimate objects around us, they don't have feelings. They don't have life. They don't have love. But human beings have this ability to love. I think also all animals and plants have a certain level of love as well. I look at these flowers here, and maybe it's the flowers' love that makes them want to bloom, even if it's just a love for life, because they bloom so that bees will be attracted, so that the bees will collect the pollen, and bees will also then take the pollen but transfer it from plant to plant, so that the plants will continue to breed. So it's actually a love of living, even within the plant. So it's an instinctual love. But humans have a higher level of love than that. You know, humans do things for each other that other animals wouldn't normally do. So the fact that there actually really is love shows that there's something else. We weren't just an amoeba that happened to develop, and over the time develop until somehow it became a human being. There is something beyond the material aspect. So that in itself is almost the proof that there really is God, by the fact that love exists. He said, not only love, but all the wonderful, humane and noble emotions are attributes of the soul. So things like courage, when people have courage, when a person is willing to do something to save another person, actually not just save another person. I saw a flash, I don't know how it came through to my phone just yesterday, of a video clip of a person running down a train, onto train tracks to untie a dog that someone had tied to the train track. I think somebody wanted to kill their dog, so they decided the easy way was to tie their dog to the train track. And so when a train came, it would run over the dog. I mean, that's just inhumane. It's horrible to think someone would do that. But this person has saw it, and there's a train coming, and the person runs. They almost got hit by the train, but they undo the dog and pull the dog away. So that was courage. That person risked their life to save their dog's life. This is a tribute of the soul. This is a godly quality. It's willing to put yourself in danger for the love of somebody or something else. As I said, by believing that God created the universe and human beings, and that he is still watching over us, our way of living can be transformed into something wonderful. You know, we have a choice. Everything's about choice. We have free will. As free will, we always have a choice. What I say, what I think, what I do. Every moment of my life is a choice. So I can choose. People might say, oh, I can't believe in God. Yes, you can. You can believe in God. You just decide that from today, I believe there's a God. And in your mind, you take that little seed that you put in there, and every day, if ever you find yourself doubting God, you think about, oh, hang on, look at this wonderful world. How can everything exist like this if there's no God? How can there be this beautiful balance of all these planets, of all this whole universe? How can there be all these different animals, people, plants, everything? There must be something behind it all. So you can believe. So absolutely. And what Master said here about by believing it, our lives can be transformed into something wonderful, because the choice is either live believing that life has no meaning, I'm here for this duration of 70, 80, 90, 100 years, whatever it's going to be, and that I'm going to make all this effort, I'm going to have to work so hard, I'm going to have to do so much just to keep myself alive. And as Buddha said, life is suffering. I'm going to have to go through all that, and then I'm just going to die, and it was all for nothing. Right? What a horrible, meaningless, pointless existence that would feel like. But now, what about instead of that, if I decide to choose to believe what Master teaches us is that this world's a training ground for our soul. We're at school, we're educating our soul. And when we leave this world, and the troubles, the difficulties, the problems we have is all an experience for us to learn. And we're going to take this wisdom with us back to the other world and continue when we go back home to the other world and live as souls in the other world. Oh, my life suddenly has meaning. This is a wonderful way. I can now every day see there's a purpose, and even the challenges and difficulties in my life, there's something to learn from them. So this is the two flip sides of ways of thinking, one without faith and one with faith. And a life with faith is, as Master said, is transformed into something wonderful. And anybody can choose to live with that faith. Now, people here in Happy Science, we have faith. And really a bit about what's going to come up later on with what Master talks about here is that we have faith, but in order to transform this world into something wonderful, we have to find ways to help other people have faith. And that requires a bit of passion. But let's carry on. Let's listen to the next excerpt from Master.
For those who believe in God, everything is filled with light. The world seems to be like a mountain of priceless treasure. However, for those who do not believe in God, how does the world seem? With the single difference in a person's state of mind, the world perceived changes. If you are going to live for a number of decades, when you think in terms of what will be more beneficial, it is better to choose to live a wonderful life. I feel that as human beings, it is our duty to live in this way. I have talked about faith. However, Happy Science has its own unique way of regarding the subject of faith. It does not teach you simply to believe in the God of the great universe every day and call to Him. We use the term pledging devotion to the three treasures, which is to devote yourself to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Buddha is a being who has the power to govern the world and preaches the laws on earth. The Dharma is the teachings given by Buddha. The Sangha is a group of people who mainly spread the teachings given by Buddha. I would like to outline the significance of being a devotee of Happy Science. Frankly, there is a great difference between those who are Happy Science devotees and those who are not. You may not think that the difference is of great significance. For instance, some non-devotees may say they've read 50 books of truth, while some Happy Science devotees have studied only 20 books. If a non-devotee attends my lectures, would it be different from a devotee attending one?
全然違う。
Actually, there is an
何が
obvious
違うか。
difference.
それは
What is the difference?
まず
Firstly,
心構えが根本
the
的に
mindset
違っているの
is a fundamental
幸
difference.
福の科学の会になる
Being
と
a
いうことは
devotee of happy
逃げ
science
場が
means
ないという
that you cannot ignore or run away from problems that you ought to
皆様
face.
方は
I
会社に
understand
勤められたり
that you
あ
might
る
be
いはいろん
working
な
in an
職場を
office
持ってお
or
られ
have different kinds
ま
of
た
work
家庭の中で
and have
おられたりする
families
でしょ
to
う
look after.
その中で辛いことも
In
あ
those
るでしょう
situations, you might
苦
have
しい
hardships
ことも
and
あるでしょう
sufferings,
そして逃げ場を探しても
and you may be looking for where you can get
しか
away
し
from them.
この幸福の
However,
科学と
in happy
いう
science,
ところは皆様は
once you
一旦
start
ここで
reflecting on your own
この
mind,
例自身を見つめるということ
it
を
means you
始めたの
cannot
では
simply
もは
run
や
away
逃
from
げ
your
場のない
problems.
世界でもあるのです絶えざる自己変革を
Happy science is
求
a
められる
place where you are
ところである
required
のです
to always
なぜならば
strive to change yourself.
東海の
This is
中で
because
説かれ
the
ている
truth
真
taught
理
at Happy Science
人類
is
の
the
理想である
ideal of
人類の理
humankind.
想を
If you
日々
study and keep practicing the
胸元に突きつけ
exploration
られて
of the right mind,
会員として正しき心の探求をし続けるということはそのままではいられ
you
ないの
cannot
です
remain the way you are.
変革することを求めされる
Transformation
のです
is an obligation
自
at
己を
Happy
変
Science.
えていこうと思う
You will
のから
qualify as a devotee only if you have the resolve to change yourself.
変えようとしない人には
Those who do
一
not
す
make
ら
an
でき
effort
ない
to change yourselves no
その
longer
ままで良いと思っている
qualifies
人は会員に
as
な
a
ることができなく
devotee.
なってくるのです必ず
That is why it is
だから
not
で
easy
あると
to
いう
be a
ことです
devotee
全然違うのです
and very
この
different
世
from a
界こそが
non-devotee. It is these
実は
devotee
現代
members
の日本において集っている
who are
光
the
の
group
牙城であ
of
るのです
light, the
光の
castle of
集団
light
であるのです
that has gathered
大変なこ
today.
となんですこの光の戦
It
士
is
たちが
astonishing that
今
these
の
warriors
日
of
本に
light
集
are
ってきて
gathering
いる
in
ということ
Japan
はこれは大
and
変
other
なことなん
countries
です
today.
この光の
And it is
戦士こそ
true
がこ
that
れから
these
の
warriors of light
日本を
are the
はい
ones who will change Japan and the world
国
into a
真の国家
country
と
of
していく
truth,
ための戦力
a
であり
nation of truth,
現に
and will save
苦しみ
those who are
悩
suffering.
んでいる人たちを
At the end of today's talk, we'll have there's a meditation about on the changing the destiny of our country. So Master's very much talking about there about, creating angels of light to be able to change a country, change a nation, change the world. So we'll probably finish at 3:30, but if anybody wants to, we'll have, it's about a 12-minute meditation for anybody who wants to do that at the end. So Master said, for those who believe in God, everything is filled with light. With the single difference in a person's state of mind, the world perceived changes. And that's just what we were talking about before. This all it is a state of mind, it's a belief. It's the foundation for why we think we're alive and where we came from and who we are and our relationship to each other and our relationship to God. Just by having that way of thinking, it changes our lives. It really means there's no difficulty that we can't go through. Without that way of thinking, we will be blown around on a stormy day like a leaf. We'll be we'll be completely taken over by things that can happen around us. With faith, we can always keep our mind steady and believe that God and the High Spirit and our own ability can get us through anything. Master said here, devotion to the three treasures means to devote yourself to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So it's a very Buddhist terms, because as he's going to talk about shortly, the teachings in Happy Science is based on the central light, the golden light or yellow light. And of course, Christianity is based on the white light of Jesus, which is the light of love and salvation. But the essence of Buddha's light is the golden light or yellow light. And it's really, the essence of it is the law of cause and effect. But the devotion to three treasures means to devote yourself to Buddha, which means we believe that Master Okawa is the Buddha. He's the awakened one. He's the person who can talk to the spirit world. He's the one that's come from a very high place in the spirit world with the mission of bringing these teachings into this world to help us. So the first stage is to have the belief that he really is the Buddha. And now for these people that were listening to him back in 1990, there was only a handful of books, still quite a few books. I don't know how many, maybe 90 or 100 books by that stage Master had written. And the teachings were very clear and very great. And maybe people would only need to read one book. Some people would get one book from a bookshop and read it and go, this is the truth. And then they would start going and following Master Okawa. So blessed are those who even way back in the early days could read that one book from Master Okawa and recognize it as great truth and then start to go to his seminars. But it's much easier to believe when there's a huge following. As I was saying before about Tokyo Dome, I've been to Tokyo Dome a few times now, and I know Jay went there as well. And when you go to an environment where there's 50 or 60,000 other people who all have faith, it's much easier to have faith. But these people in the early days had faith because they saw the quality of the teaching. And that's what the Dharma is. The Dharma is Buddha's teaching. So the Buddha is the one who's enlightened, and the Dharma is his teaching. And then the Sangha is the group of people who have the faith in the Buddha and study the Dharma and then want to spread the Dharma to other people to change the world. So this is the real significance and why they're called three treasures, because each one of them is precious. Of course, we can't have a teaching. We can't have a Dharma unless Buddha's there giving the teaching. There is no teaching for us to relate to. And then without the Dharma, we don't know what to follow. We don't know the right way. What is the cause of suffering? What is the truth about life? What happens when I die? So without the Dhamma, we can't really understand that. But without the Sangha, there's no way to spread the teaching around. So if the Buddha has just the Buddha and then the teaching, and then there's no group of followers following the Buddha, then it's impossible for that teaching to spread around the world. So that's why each one of them is really important in its own right, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. One thing I've always found, though, is that the challenge is always in the Sangha, to be honest, because the Sangha is a group of all of us, imperfect people who are trying to study the teaching. I must have said, to be a devotee, one of the most important things about being a devotee is the willingness to change yourself, right? So it's the willingness to reflect and find the parts of myself I need to change and make the effort to change so I can get my thinking closer to that of Buddha's thinking. But the Sangha itself is full of imperfect people, and there's always going to be problems within the Sangha. But that's part of the joy of being here with so many different types of people. That's part of the soul training, to recognize that everybody has got a different way of thinking, and to be able to practice sometimes when we're not happy with someone, to be able to practice forgiveness with somebody. Or if we're trying to put forward our viewpoint, trying to be able to convince somebody about a different perspective, that's also our challenge. That requires wisdom. So then we can brush up on our ability to convey the teachings or truth. So yeah, it's always respect, always the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Okay, let's listen to the next excerpt.
As you may already know, in the heavenly world there is light of 7 colors. For instance, the white light is the light of love, with Jesus Christ as its guide. The purple light is the light of order and discipline. Its guides are Confucius and Amaterasu Omikami of Shintoism. There is also the green light, which emphasizes harmony and art, represented by Taoism. There is the blue light, which symbolizes intelligence and philosophy, which those like Kant and Hegel emit. There is also the silver light of science centered around Newton. However, the movement that is now occurring, the movement started by happy science to bring happiness to the whole of humankind, is a movement reflecting the golden light, which has a Buddhist quality and is central to the 7-colored light. People who become devotees of happy science enter the spirit group of this golden light. What does it mean to join this spirit group? It means that in this world, you will work to spread the truth under the golden light. And in the other world, you will live as Buddha's disciple. When you study in the world after this, those who are ahead of you and who believe in Buddhist teachings
先輩方です。そういう教えを
will be your
信じている
teachers,
先輩たちが
and they will guide
皆
you.
様方を指導するのです。万一
If ever, unfortunately,
不運にも運つたなく
you cannot return to the heavenly world after you die,
天上界に帰ることができなかったとしても、その自分
It
の
is
世界
I
において
and the companions of light who support me,
救いに行くのは私と
who will go to the hell realm and save you.
光の仲間たちであるということです。皆様方の
I am
先生は他にはいない
your only teacher.
私の名を呼ぶしかな
My
い。
name is the only name you can call.
今
In this case,
私のところで共に
there is a
支えている
promise
者や
that those who are supporting the Dharma with me now and the spirits that are assisting us from the real world
ということなのです。そういう
will
約
run
束
to
事で
save you.
あるのです。そしてさらに述べると
Moreover,
するならば、
when you
皆様方
encounter the truth,
真理の
read the
真理に
books
触れ
of truth,
真理のテープを
listen
聞いた
to
り
the
して
lecture
学んで
CDs,
決意して
and
そして
decide to make the
よし、正しい心
exploration
の
of the
探求
right
という
mind
ことを
the goal
一生
of
の
your
課題
life
として幸福の科学の世界員として
and
光の
live
戦士
as
と
a
して
devotee of
生きて
happy
いくことを
science,
決意し
a
そ
warrior
して
of
入
light,
会願書を出しまさに
and take a
入会願に
ceremony
許さ
to
れて
pledge
願書が
devotion
届い
to
た
the
日
three
には
treasures,
皆さん方の壮年体
that day will
心
be
の
recorded in
歴
the
史です。
golden
その
letters
帯
on
です
your thought
テー
tape,
プレコーダーの
which
中に
shows
は
the
金
history
色
of
の
your
文字でその
mind.
日が刻印されているのです。それは事実なの
This
です。
is indeed the truth.
そういう日であるのです。それは皆様
The
方
day
の
you
魂
pledge
が
devotion
変
is
化
the
する日
day
なの
when
です。
your soul
今までと違
changes.
って
It is the
三
day
次
you
元的な
part from a
そのような
three-dimensional
生き
way of
方を
living,
決別し
and while living
こ
on
の
earth,
地上において皆さん方が第一段
you
階の
enter the first
悟り
stage
の入り
of
口に立っ
enlightenment.
たという日であるのです。その本来の使命に目覚めてやらねばならん己に使命があっ
It is
た
the
とい
day
う
when
こと
you
を
awaken
気づき
and stand
立
up
ち上がった日
for
で
your
あり
mission.
最も
It is the
記
most
念すべき日で
memorable
も
day.
あるのです。その時以来
Each human being has a guardian spirit.
一人一人には
After this
将
day
来
of
と
your
いう存
awakening,
在がついておりますが皆様方の
your
将来
guardian
は
spirit
大
cannot
変な
stand
ことに
idle
なるのです。
and becomes
安閑として
extremely
おられ
active.
ないのです。今までは
Before your
普
awakening,
通に
they only had to watch over
生きていた人をそれなりに見ておれば
someone
よ
who
かっ
was
た
leading
と
an
ころが
ordinary life.
正解になって
But once you
光の
become a
戦士になっ
devotee of
た日から
happy science
皆
and a
さん方の
warrior
将
of
来
light,
たちは
your
大変な
guardian
経験
spirit
をし
will
ます。
experience
そ
a
の大
great
変な経
challenge.
験とは
It will
何かとい
begin
う
to
と
receive contact
幸福の科学の指導霊団たち
from the guiding spirit
彼
group
ら
of
との
happy
接触が
science.
始まるのです。その時から
From that
守護霊
point
たち
on,
は
the guardian
厳しく
spirits
注意を受けま
receive
す。
strict
お前はそんな
instructions.
ことで良いのか
Are you
そ
making
れで
enough
使命を
effort?
果たし
Do
てい
you
るのか
think you are
正しく
accomplishing
指
your
導をし
mission?
ているのかと厳しく指導を
Are
し
you
ます。
guiding
地上
rightly
に生きている人間だけではない。
not only the people
地上
living
に
on
生きてい
earth,
る皆さん
but
が
also the
指
guardian
導をして
spirits
い
that
る
are
という
guiding?
そういう指導霊、守護霊たちも新たな体験を積み、霊的な向上を
Must
招
collect
かな
new
ければ
experiences
な
and
らなく
aim for
なる
spiritual
ので
development.
あります。そういうことなのです。大変なことであるのです。だからこそ、
This is
そ
why
こに決意が
a
ある。
strong determination is
だ
born
から
within
こ
you,
そ、そこに何事かをなさ
and
ね
you
ば
feel
ならぬと
determined
いう
to accomplish
思いが
something.
ふつふつと込み上げてくるのであります。それは人生最
You
大
must
の
understand
奇跡であるということ
that
を
this is the
諦
greatest
めな
turning
ければ
point in your
あ
life.
りません。
You know, while living in our lives here, it's really sometimes hard to fathom the extraordinary magnitude of what is actually going on at this moment in time. You know, we are at the moment in time when Alcantara has descended to earth to save all the souls. So the Master's taught us before, you know, this is only the third time that this part of the consciousness of Alcantara has come to earth. Alpha 330 million years ago, about 150 million years ago, Elohim, and now as Alcantara, and possibly the last and probably the last incarnation as this part of the core central consciousness. But Master has said The purpose of his life is to save not just all the people on this earth, but to save all the souls that have fallen to hell. Of course, God wants to save all souls. So what is happening right now is the most incredible, magnificent project ever undertaken by God, but not just by the people of this earth, as Master's explained. There are beings coming from all around the universe converging on earth to undertake in this mission. We are part of the most incredible, magnificent thing. And yet it doesn't, when we live our daily lives, it's hard to imagine that sometimes, right? Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. We still get up. We still have to have our breakfast. We still have to put on our clothes, have our shower, go to work, earn our incomes, do our jobs. It just feels so mundane and so normal. But what is actually going on over the big picture about what's happening right now is the most extraordinary moment of time, and we're part of it. Yeah. Master said here, he said, when you encounter the truth, read the books of truth, listen to the lectures, and decide to make exploration of the right mind the goal of your life, and live as a devotee of happy science, a warrior of light, and take a ceremony to please devotion to the three treasures. That day will be recorded in golden letters on your thought tape, which shows the history of your mind. So just imagine, once you make this decision to be a warrior of light, it means not only trying to help people in this world, but it means that even when we leave this world, do you think you could have the courage and have the wisdom and the tools to be able to go to hell to save people? See, there's different people. John, you're a pretty strong person. I can imagine you building up enough strength that you see people that are in hell and you think, well, I'm going to go down there and help those people. I mean, you work in security. When you do security, you're willing to risk some trouble for yourself to protect other people. That's that way of thinking. You're willing to put yourself in harm's way if it means to be able to, for justice, to save people or to help people. So really think of the big picture. What we're learning now is really giving us tools to help ourselves and to help others, but not just in this world. When we leave this world, this mission continues. This is going to be going for a long, long, long time. This saving all the souls in hell isn't probably going to end by the end of our lifetime. This lifetime, we're still training, we're still learning. This is just the beginning. But as Master said here, when we make this pledge in our mind to connect ourselves with Buddha through devotion to three treasures, at the time, it's recorded in the history of our mind and the history of our soul that we have connected ourselves deeply with God or Buddha, Alcantara at that particular time. And to be able to do it at the time while Alcantara is on earth is exceptionally precious. Okay, let's carry on.
At present, the movement to bring happiness to humankind is progressing. We are pledging to spread the truth and take action.
真理の太陽が昇る90年として私たちは近い行動を起こしておりますが、一人でも多くの
I hope that as many people as possible will become devotee members. This will become the power to change Japan and the world. My power is not solely my own power. As more people devote themselves to the three treasures, and as the number of people who believe in me increases, my strength will become greater. For this movement to become the energy for salvation, there must be great numbers of people who understand the reason for spreading the truth and following our objectives. Not just in the world after this, but also here on earth. There are 120 million people in Japan. An enormous amount of spiritual energy is needed to change these people. Even with several million happy science devotees, it would be extremely difficult to change 120 million people. Unless those devotees had a strong passion, it will be impossible to change such a vast number of people. However, our goal is much greater. There are about 5.4 billion people as of 1989 living in the world today. Therefore, it is extremely important to bring our energy together.
そのような光の力が
Unless we bring together the power of light,
全人類、全日本人、
we are
こう
far
いう人たちを
from
鼓舞
having
するため
energy
に
to bring happiness to
足りないのです。
humankind.
これが事実で
This
ありま
is
す。
the present situation.
さて、そういう話を
When people hear
聞いた
this,
ならば、
some might say the following.
ある質問を私に投げかけられるでしょう。幸福の科学を
When Happy Science was established,
真理の
I was
探
told
求
that it is important to first explore the truth,
この順序
then
が
study
大
the
事である
truth,
と
and
言ったは
finally
ずだ。
to
探
do
求
missionary
学習があ
work.
っての
I was told that missionary work can be practiced only after exploration and study of the truth. Since I have not explored and studied enough, I can't practice missionary work. There are many people who may think like this.
そこで
So I would like to explain this again briefly for these people.
簡単にもう一度ご説明を申し上げるとするならば、真理の
First
根
of
拠
all,
はね、
what is exploration of the
置
truth?
かれている
You are probably searching for a better way of
常
living
により良き人生
within
を
the
求
environment
めてい
you
る
are
でしょう。
currently in.
それぞれの人の置かれた
Although
立
each
場は違い
person's
ます。
situation is
その
different,
違う立場の中において
exploration is the attitude of making an effort to live
模索
righteously,
し、そして自らの生き方を探っていくこの姿勢ですね。向上していこう。
to develop
そして
yourself,
真なるものを掴
to
んでいこ
grasp
う
the truth,
良くなっていこうと
and
す
to
る
become a
この
better
精
person.
進の姿勢、これを探求と言います。そして
Secondly,
学習とは現
study
に出ているところの
means to
真理
read
の
books
書
on the
籍を
truth,
読み
listen to
学び、
lectures,
そしてテープを聞き、講演会やセミナー等も
attend seminars, and to make
自
them
分
a
自
part
身
of
の
you,
ものにしていくこと。
your
筋肉に
nourishment.
変えるということですね。探求よりももっとはっきりとした
This is more
具体的な
practical and
現実がそこに
concrete
あって
than the stage of
現に理解し
exploration.
なければダメだということ
Simply
ですね。
seeking and
求
exploring
め
the
ているだけ
truth
では
is not
単に
enough.
探求しているだけではダメですよ。現にものにしなさいよ。そ
You
の
must
真理を
make
自分
the
のもの
truth
にし
a
なさい
part
よ
of yourself,
その真理に基づいて
and it is
自分自身の問題を
necessary to
消化
have
し
the power
他
to
の
solve
人
your
々の
problems,
問題をも解決だけ
as well
で
as
きるだけ
those
の
of other people,
力が必要ですよ。
based on the truth.
そこまでできる力を身につけ
When you
て
have gained
学
this
習でき
power,
たと言えるんですよと
for the first time you can say
申しております。
that you have
そして
studied
そ
the
ういう
truth.
学力がついて
Then, when you have a certain level of achievement,
この
you enter the
こう
stage of
他の
missionary
人に
work,
伝える
where you
段階
convey
が
the laws to
来るんですよ。
others.
こういう理想的なる
This is the
三
ideal
段階論
three-step
を
process that
説
I
いて
teach.
いるわけであります。
Thank you, Master. So much wonderful logic. So, Mr. Master said in here, unless we bring together the power of light, we are far from having the energy to bring happiness to humankind. I thought it was also really amazing and interesting when he says that as more people have faith, as people's faith grows and the number of people with faith grows, it increases his amount of power also. And he's spoken about this before, actually, even in the past, when high spirits came to earth, like in Jesus' time or other people's time. By the people's faith, when people have faith in these people, it actually adds power to God. Faith is such a powerful thing. When we have faith in God, God's power increases. It's really incredible. Yeah. So it's really important, the faith is, of course, for our own lives. Through faith, we can experience happiness because faith now allows us to see things from the right perspective, but also for being able to make the difference. But he spoke here about the three-step process: explore, study, and convey. So these are what Master teaches. We should first of all explore the truth. So Master's written 3,000 books, right? So if we're thinking about, a problem that I have or a problem I want to solve, let me have a look. I'll explore what's out there. What books has Master Okawa written on this? What shall I have? What's this book? And then we find a book that might actually have some of the solutions for it. And we actually make the effort to really deeply study that book and read that book and think deeply about it and then put it into practice and then experience the difference that that can make and then convey. I guess an example of this would be, and actually one thing we must have said in here too, is that, people think that, I should only convey the truth when I've attained enlightenment. I have not got enough understanding to be able to convey this teaching to other people. But he said once before in another book, he said, even a sick doctor can still cure patients, right? That's so true. Even if a doctor had a cold, a doctor can still diagnose your illness and tell you what's your problem, even if the doctor's sick. So a sick doctor can still cure patients. So we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to attain this great enlightenment to be able to help other people. For example, we could have our own issues and challenges, but we could meet somebody who is living a wrong way and they're really unhappy, and their way of living we can see is what's causing their suffering. Well, or their way of thinking is causing their suffering. Well, we know one of the basic laws taught in Happy Science is you are what you think about all day long. Okay, even if I haven't been able to perfect my way of thinking, there's no harm in me telling another person this basic law. I could still be not achieving it. I might still be sometimes having some suffering. I could have some times where I'm feeling negative, or times when I'm feeling a little bit angry, or whatever. I can still have those issues in my own mind, but I know the truth is that I am what I think about all day long. So whenever these thoughts come up, I try to change my mind and point it towards heaven. So there's no reason when we meet another person who we can see suffering the same challenges as us, we can't say, well, actually, you are what you think about all day long. So if you're thinking negatively all the time, you're being a negative person. So the challenge is to change your mind and to be thinking positive. See, so even if we haven't completely changed ourselves to a perfect, ideal person, which we probably never will, we can still convey the teaching. So, but the main thing is that we have a certain level of the understanding of the teaching. So we're conveying the teachings given by Master, not our own teaching. Okay, let's listen to another excerpt.
You may have heard the phrase, study leads to missionary work, and missionary work leads to study. Some people may understand these words abstractly, but can't understand them in a practical sense. So I would like to define this clearly. Study leads to missionary work, and missionary work leads to study means read at least one book of truth a week. Sow the seeds of truth in the mind of more than one person each week, and talk about the truth with that person. This is very easy to do. Are you so busy that you cannot read even one book of truth and talk about it to even one person a week? Think about this for a while. It is because you are studying many subjects that you have an abundant topics to talk about. There are many people who have difficulty talking to others. However, when I observe these people, in most cases, I find that they lack things to talk about. The same goes for situations other than missionary work. There are people who generally have difficulty talking to others. But actually, they just lack topics to talk about. This means that they can talk to others if they have things to talk about. For example, I hear that when some people take courses in adult education programs and are asked to give their opinions, they hesitate to comment and remain silent. But when it comes to something they know well or have read about in a book, or they have had some experience related to that subject, they suddenly become talkative. And then, when that topic comes to an end, they fall silent again. It is obvious that the problem lies in the resource they have. That is why studying is definitely necessary to collect resources to be able to talk about things. For instance, a car needs to be filled with gasoline in order to run. Studying the truth is like filling a vehicle with gasoline. A car runs on gasoline as its source of energy. Simply filling the car with gasoline will not do any good, just as simply letting the car run will not be any good because it will run out of gasoline. You must fill the car with gasoline and then let it run, and fill it up again. This will allow the car to fulfill its mission. Some people might say that even though they have been told to sow seeds of truth in at least one person's heart a week, they do not know how to do it. However, there is nothing to be afraid of. I have just talked about collecting resources. And if you study the truth, it will enable you to talk about the right topic in any place to anyone in any situation.
なぜできるようになっていく
Why is it that you become able to do this? It is because you gradually become attuned to your guardian spirit while you study the truth continuously. Your guardian spirit is the one that knows you best. They will definitely help you when you do your true work of sowing the seeds of truth and talking to others about the truth. That is why words that do not seem like your own will suddenly come out of your mouth. You will probably experience a lot of situations where words come out naturally. You will wonder if the words are really coming out of you, who is so hesitant. You are able to talk on the appropriate topic, whether it be to one person, several people, or to a large crowd. You'll encounter such an unbelievable phenomenon. This phenomenon will seem like a miracle to each person. Your eyes, hands, and mouth will work as if they are not yours. This is the result of your daily effort. If you practice this, you will see for yourself whether the things I am saying are true. You will no doubt feel that you've become someone quite unlike yourself, and you will be able to present the truth in a way that is appropriate to any kind of audience. What makes you able to do such things? It is the kindness you have for those people. Compassion is to understand the position of others, how they feel, and what they want.
I guess the perfect example where Master's talking about being able to just speak without on any topic. All the lectures that he gave and gives now and gave back then, he didn't ever have notes. So the lecture we're listening to today, he turns up, he might have the topic that he's going to talk about, but he just starts talking about it and the words just come out. So the truth just flows out. But of course, as he said, we have to make our own individual effort. He puts a lot of time study, a lot of time reflecting, a lot of time understanding other people, feeling other people's pain and suffering. And so he can just speak it. But yeah, that's very true. If we have that dedication to learning the truth, then it's easy to talk to people about it. And if you think about it, you know, why it's so easy is that it's just the truth. Okay, so it's not like if it's history and you've read it in a book and there's a date the person was born and this is the date they died and this is the country they lived in and then this is what they did in this year and then this year they did this. Oh my gosh, how do you remember all this stuff? You have to have an incredible memory to remember it. But things like the truth is just something that is, it's the truth. For instance, the essence of love is giving. When you give love, it makes you feel happy. When you take love, you're going to experience suffering. Giving love means you're wishing other people's happiness and their happiness becomes your own happiness. Taking love means that you want other people to make you happy. You want other people to give you things, compliments or whatever you want to make you happy. That's just a real basic teaching on truth. Once we understand that teaching of truth, we don't need to think about a name, a date, anything like that. There's no memory about that. It's just understanding it and feeling it so that when we're in a situation or conversation with somebody, we just need to express something that we know that is the truth. So I know when I started studying Happy Science, I loved the study and the learning, and I found that, yeah, I love to talk about it with people, and it was really invigorating. And with my friends, we'd talk about it too, and we'd have a lot of conversations at my home. But then after studying Happy Science for a while, if ever I went to the pub with somebody and tried to have a conversation with somebody about like the things you talk about in a pub, I found it really difficult just to talk about those worldly things or, you know, the stuff that people might talk about in a bar, you know, whereas things on the truth, and the truth can include things like politics. It can include economics. It just includes about the ways of living the ideal life for each individual, and each individual leads to the happiness of humankind. It's so invigorating to talk about such things. So, okay, so Master said in here, Study leads to missionary work, and missionary work leads to study. I know I was just talking about my home when I first started studying happy science. I know I've told the story before, but my friend Carrie used to argue a lot. He used to love to play devil's advocate. Devil's advocate means you choose the opposite side. If somebody says something, you choose the opposite side. Even if you don't agree with the other side, you just choose the opposite side so you can have an argument or a discussion. Well, my friend Carrie, he always chose devil's advocate, and he was questioning everything about the teachings in happy science. And I used to sometimes get a little frustrated. But when I reflect back now, I realize what a blessing that was to have somebody who wasn't just agreeing and saying, oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's really great. Oh, that's wonderful. Jay.
Is he a member now? Is he a member of
Yeah, he's a member of Happy Science. And you know, many years later, he said, Steve, you joining Happy Science and all that, it was just the greatest thing. So he's really congratulated me on it. But at the time, yeah, and I'm really grateful for him and his, because he would tell me stuff and argue, and then I'd have to go away and I would master teach about explorer or study and missionary work. Well, I'd have to go back to the exploring again, because he would say something or have an argument to something that I haven't read. And I'm thinking, well, I know Master Okawa is going to have the perfect answer for this. So then I'd have to go find the answer, study the answer, and then come back to the kitchen table and explain to Carrie the answer, you know, so, but he'd find another side to that too. Okay, Master said, putting into practice, read at least one book of truth a week and sow the seeds of truth in the mind of more than one person per week. You see, when we look at it, break it down like that, that's not hard, but that requires discipline. To read one book of truth a week, I mean, one book of truth could be even just this. This is a book. It's one lecture. It would take maybe somebody, different people read at different speeds, but anything, one person might read it in 10 minutes, another person might take 30 minutes, somebody might take an hour. It doesn't really matter. Somebody might want to read it 2 or 3 times, but read one book a week and then sow the seeds of truth in the mind of more than one person per week. Adam, you're very good at this. I know you're always looking for the opportunities to sow the seeds of truth in people's minds. And always you can't guarantee the reaction. Sometimes it's going to be a difficult reaction. And Master's going to talk about this soon too, about that's one of the key things, is not being attached to the reaction of another person or not being defeated by a negative reaction from a person. But he then said, compassion is to understand the position of others, how they feel and what they want. And he said before, understanding another person is close to loving another person. And I think this is connected to the same idea, is that if we can understand the position of others and feel what they want, then it's much easier for us to convey the specific teaching that someone needs to hear. So, you know, if a person is suffering from jealousy, there might be no need to talk to them about the mind of anger, you know, or we need to think and be able to listen to another person and feel from another person what is their suffering and relate that to the teachings from Master Okawa to be able to then help them understand. Okay, let's go to the next excerpt.
For instance, parents know immediately what their baby or child wants. When it cries, they know whether their baby wants milk or wants its diaper changed. This is because the parents are constantly pouring out love and with a warm heart paying attention to the baby. Likewise, those who always pay attention to others with warm eyes and a kind heart will naturally know how to talk to people without having to learn. They know what others want since they understand the feeling and position. They know what they must say to these people. They do not need to contrive or presume anything. All you need is a warm heart and a pure mind. However, if you let your ego or pride interfere, or if you are consumed by your own personal philosophy of life, you won't be able to help others. If you are attached to your own way of doing things, you will inevitably fail. All you need is kindness, a keen interest in others, and the wish for them to be happier. As long as you have this feeling, you will naturally begin to say appropriate words and take appropriate action. However, if you are unable to do this, you can give someone a book on the truth. If you think a book is too much reading for that person, maybe you can give them a booklet.
活字が読めない
If
と
the
いうなら
person cannot read, you can
テー
give
プの
them
本
a
を差し上げ
lecture
ることでも
CD.
良いでしょう。それでも
This is
真理
equivalent
の
to
種が
sowing
まいたこと
seeds
に
of truth.
なります。知ってる人にそれさえできないと
If
いう
it
の
is
であるならば
impossible for you even to give someone you know
書
a
店
book,
に行って真理の書がそこ
you
に
can
並
go
ぶ
to a bookstore to place an
注
order
文
for
取るこ
books
と
of
一
truth
つで
so
さえ
people can
彼
find
ら
them
の
on
手
the
になるでしょう。
shelves.
そういうことはできるは
You
ずで
can
す
at least put this
考
into
えてほしいんで
practice.
す。
Please
難しいこ
give
と言
it
ってい
some
ません
thought. I am not saying
週に一
anything
冊ぐらい
difficult.
は
Try
最
reading
低
at
一
least
冊は
one book on the
真理の
truth
書を
a
読み
week.
ましょう。週に最低1回
Talk
は
about the truth to someone
真
at
理の
least
話
once a
を
week.
誰かにしましょう。他の人が目覚めるための
Let's give people a
きっかけを
chance
与え
to
ましょう。
awaken to the truth.
簡単なことです。
This is something that you can easily do.
それをできないと思うのは
If you feel
己
that you
に
can't
対
do
す
this,
る
it is probably
我慢の
because you are self-indulgent
自分の
or
心
creating
が
a
心
shell
を
around you,
守ろう
trying
と
to
するから
protect your
が
own
あるから
cowardly
です。
mind.
たとえ
Even if you are
日常
not
の仕
good
事におい
at
て
business and sales,
評価を得られない方
or
で
you
あって
only get poor
営業やセール
evaluations
スが
at
下
work,
手であると言われる方であっても真理の世界において
in
は
the world of truth,
全く
there will be
違
a
った
very different
場
outcome.
面が出てくるのです。それは私たち
It
は
is very different
銭金のために
because we are
や
not
っている
working
から
for
ではない
money.
んです。真実のために
We are working for the
人の
truth,
心のために
for the human
幸福の
mind,
ために
and
やっ
human
ているからこ
happiness.
そ商売の下手な人
This
ほど
is why the more
真理の
inefficient
伝
one
道が
is in
上手なんで
business,
す。
the better
実
one
際
is
は
at missionary work.
朴突であり
In actuality, it is because people who
真
seem
実であり
imperfect,
素
who
直
are
であり
honest,
飾り気がないから
sincere,
こそ
and
そん
simple
な素人の
say
人
things
が
that are
言う
the
からこ
truth.
そそれは真実なのです。だから
So
自己否定を
do
しては
not
なり
limit
ま
your
せん。
possibilities
自
and
己限
potential.
定をしてはなりません。自分は
Do
この
not
ところ
think
で
that
こういうことがで
because
きな
you
いから
cannot do
これも
certain
できない
things,
という
you
ふうに
won't be able to do
思って
missionary
は
work.
なりません。最低週に
Make an
1
effort
回ぐらい
to
は
sow at least
真理の
one
種
seed of truth
ま
a
いてあげて
week.
ください。皆さんもどこかで縁
You
を
enter the world of
持
truth
って
because you were given the
そして
opportunity for it.
この世界に入れたならばまだ縁
Many
が
people have the
あれば
chance of
目
awakening,
覚めることがで
as
きるの
long
にその
as they
縁がな
have
い人がいっぱいい
opportunity.
るんです。
But
その
many of
縁
them
を与
don't.
え
To
てあげる
give
ことは
people this
愛なんです。
opportunity is the very
与え
act
る愛と
of love
言っ
that
て
gives.
いるが
Happy Science
それ
teaches
は
love
抽
that
象的
gives.
なもん
This
じゃ
is
ない
not
ん
an
です。
abstract teaching.
きっかけを与えることな
All
ん
you
です。
need to do
あとは
is to give them
自
the
分で
chance, and they will eventually
道
begin
を
walking on the
進んでい
path
くでしょう。
themselves.
でもきっかけを
That is why it is very
大事な
important to give them the
こと
chance
で
of
ある
encountering
ん
the
です。
truth.
きっかけがなければ人生は
Without
変
a
わっていく
chance
こと
like
が
this,
な
a
いんです。
life cannot
それは
change.
非常
It
に
is
大
of
事な
great
大事なことで
importance.
あるのです。その後のことは各自が
After
責
receiving
任を
this
持て
chance,
ば
it
いい
is
で
up
し
to
ょ
the
う。しかし
individual to
きっ
take
かけはやはり
responsibility for their
与
own
えられ
lives,
るので
but
す。
an opportunity
それ
has
を
to be given.
愛
Do
であ
not
ることを
forget that giving someone a
忘れ
chance
て
and
は
an opportunity
なりま
is
せん。
also an act of love.
You know, for us that live with the knowledge of the truth, we sometimes forget how valuable that knowledge is. And what Master's just suggesting there is that, you know, an act of love is just to give others the opportunity to discover that truth. What they do with it once they've got it, that's up to them. But it's an act of love to make the effort to give them the opportunity. And even if they throw it back in our face, and some of this is going to come up shortly. I love this teaching that's about to come up from Master very shortly, the next excerpt that we will have. But he said, many people have the chance of awakening as long as they have the opportunity. To give people this opportunity is the very act of love that gives. So it's really as simple as that. And the more we study ourselves and train ourselves, the more quality that opportunity, or when we get the chance to talk to somebody, the more that we can explain it in a way that they can understand. And that's our own soul training. And the reaction they have towards us in a way is the litmus test about how far we've gone, or how much I'm understanding them, or how much I can convey it. I'm going to move along quickly because Master's going to talk about something here now, which I think is, well, it's so incredible, and it's so deep, but it's very much about the challenges we face when we are conveying the truth.
I have mentioned the importance of faith.
信仰心の大切さ、また幸福の科学の
The significance of being a devotee of happy science,
そして学習と伝道についての
and talked about study
簡単
and
な
missionary work.
お話を申し上げました。伝道期に入るに際
As we enter the time
皆様方に
when we must begin
言っ
our
ておきたい
missionary
ことは
activities,
私には
There are many things I must talk about your practice of missionary
その
work,
中で
but
どうして
there
も
is one point that I feel I must make.
ならぬことを先に言っておきましょう。最近読んだ本に
In a book I once
こん
read,
な話
there
が
was a
載
story
っておりました。悪魔が
about a devil
仕事を
selling his business tools because he was
しようとして
closing down
見
his
せじ
store.
まいをしようとして自分の商売道具を売りに出したという話なんですね。お客様が来て
A
そして
customer came in
悪魔が売りに出した
and looked at the
その道
tools on
具を
sale.
いろいろ見ているわけだけれども、そこで見ていますと
Tools such
例え
as
ば嫉妬心とか
jealousy,
猜疑心とか
suspicion,
取り越し苦労
worry,
であるとか
and
あるいは
desire.
欲望だとかこのような道具がいっぱい置いてあるんですね。悪魔が人間の心に
They were devil's tools to make their
そう
way
いうのを
into
いっぱい売り
people's
に出してある
minds.
その中で
Among the
一つだけ
various types of tools, the customer came across one that was a very high
道具
price.
があったというのです。その道具はくさび型をして
This tool was
そ
shaped
して
like a
非
wedge
常によく
and was quite
使い
worn
込んだ
out.
形跡があった。高い値段をしている。これは一体何ですか
What
と
is this? The
お客様
customer
が聞いた
asked.
そうすると悪魔は
The devil answered
ニ
with
コ
a
ニコと
smile.
笑いながらこう答えた。これが失望っていうや
This
つ
is what is called despair.
どんな誘惑に
Even
も
if a
負けない
person cannot be
人間でも
defeated by
この
any kind of
失望という
temptation,
名の
if you
く
drive
さび
this
を打ち込むと
despair
そ
tool
の後
into
から
a
何でも
person's
入り
mind,
込めるん
after
ですよ。
that you can throw
だからこれ
anything
は情
in.
報で
This
な
has
かな
been
か離
very
せなかった
useful
もの
and
な
I
んで
could
す。
not let it
だ
go.
からこれは高い値段が
So
つい
that
て
is
いる
why I have it out
こう
with
い
a
うふう
very
に
high price.
悪魔が語ったという話です。なるほどと
When I read this, I was
思いました。
convinced of the truth in this story.
誘惑に強い方は
There
皆さん
may
の
be
中に
many
いる
people
でし
who
ょ
can
う。
stand
真理を
strong
求
against
め
temptations. Among the
そういう
people who
聖
make
書
an
たちの
effort to
中に
seek
は
truth are those who
さまざ
protect
まな誘
themselves
惑か
from
ら
temptation
身を守りそして
and have
頑
strong
張っていく
willpower
と
to
いう
continue in their
深い点の意
spiritual
志を持ってい
discipline.
る方も多いでしょう。しかし
But
悪魔は言うそ
the
うです。
devil says
失望という名のくさびを
that
打ち込んだら
anything can be put in very
簡
easily
単だ
into
と。
their mind after
それが
driving in the
例え
wedge
ば
of despair.
あ
Once
と猜疑
despair
心で
has
あろうが
punctured the
疑いであ
mind
ろ
and
うが
made a hole, it
嫉
is
妬心
easy
であ
to
ろうが
throw anything in,
欲望であろうが
such as
金
suspicion,
銭欲であろう
jealousy,
が何で
desire,
もかんで
a
も
craving
名
for
誉欲
money
でも
or fame,
入り込めるっていうんです。そして狂わせられるとい
and
う
so derange a person.
そういう話です。私たちは
After hearing this
その
story,
話を聞い
we
て
cannot afford to be
負けるわけに
defeated.
はいかないです。失望というのが
If despair
悪霊や魔
is a
たちが
tool of devils
一番私たちを
to penetrate
狙ってい
our
る
minds,
道具であるとするならば
we must
これに
protect
対して
ourselves from it.
守りを固めねばなりません。伝道機に入って
Suppose you give a
一人
book
の
of
人に
truth
本
to
を
a
あげた
friend,
ところが
but he or
君が
she
好き
throws
な
it
本
back
を
at
読
you
めばと言っ
saying,
て
I
も礼
can't
拝さ
read
れる。
this garbage.
それで失望
You
して
must remember that if,
帰った
after this,
その
you go
陰
home
で
in despair,
悪魔が
the
笑ってい
devil
ると思
is
われるわけ
laughing
ない
behind your back.
しめしめくさびが
He
一本
laughs
入っ
and
て
thinks, now a
これから
wedge has
何
been
でも
driven in. I can
これ
throw
は
anything into this
何でも
person's
この
mind
人の心の
and
中
say
に
anything I
差し込む
want.
ことができる。
I have
あとは自
control
由にで
over
きる
this
ぞと
person.
ニコニコと笑っているわけです。負けてはなりま
But
せん。
you must not be
失
defeated.
望との戦いこ
The
そ
battle against despair is the
伝道におい
most
て
important of all
一
in
番
missionary work.
大事なことであるのです。
What a great story. I mean, can you relate to that? Like the despair. It's something, it was the well-worn tool, the tool of despair. If you can put despair into a person's heart or mind, then anything else can be thrown in there. Once there's despair, they can become jealous, they can become suspicious, they can become angry. All the others can be put in there. I thought this is such a wonderful story about despair. Yeah. In a minute, we've got our last excerpt, and then the Master talks about how to overcome despair, how to defeat despair. So he said the devil's tools to make their way into people's minds. He mentioned at the beginning there was jealousy, suspicion, worry, desire. These are the four that he mentioned straight out. But he then said that the most powerful tool is despair. And if you drive this despair tool into a person's mind, after that, you can throw anything in. And he said the battle against despair is the most important of all in missionary work. And anybody who's tried to spread the teachings of happy science and convey the teaching, tell people that Master Okawa is the Buddha, or tell people that Master Okawa is Alcantara on earth, everybody has had somebody reject that. I mean, John, I know even you've brought Nabil here, and at first he now likes happy science, but it took a little while, and there probably were times when he rejected things. But you know, if we just keep our mind pure and our intention pure, then because we believe in it, we can see the value of it. All I'm doing is offering something that I believe is super valuable to somebody else. Then if I see it from that perspective, then I won't feel the despair. But if I offer it and I expect them to accept it the way I accept it, and then they don't accept it the way I accept it, and then I feel hurt from that, then I'll feel despair. And it's really a chance to practice love that gives. Love that gives means that even though I'm offering this person because I believe they'll like this will be really wonderful for them, and if they eat it or if they take it, it's going to be great for them. But if they don't, I shouldn't be affected by it. That's the main thing. And that's the real, in happy science, that's the real practice of love that gives. Being able to convey the teachings without an expectation of how they're going to react. And the second part of that is being able to convey the teachings, and the more I study, the more I understand the teachings and practice the teachings, the more likely it is that the person will be able to understand what I'm conveying. So on one hand, I do my best by studying it and learning it and practicing it so that when I convey it, people can understand it. But of course, that's a continuous challenge to always try to improve in that. But meanwhile, while doing that, the key thing is to not be attached to how people will react, not ever allow ourselves to feel despair because someone didn't react the way we wanted. As I was talking about my friend Carrie, you know, at the time, sometimes I did feel a little bit of despair, I guess. Not despair, disappointment, you know, but it made me feel stronger that I wanted to learn more. I knew that the teaching was right. So it probably drove me forward a little bit too. So we can use it as a springboard to make us try harder. Okay, final excerpt here from Master Okawa.
Then, how can we not fall into despair and continue with our work? There is no answer except the word passion, the theme of today's lecture. Passion is what drives out the wedge called despair. If you have passion, you can push out the wedge. Even if it has been driven into your mind. Where then does this passion come from? I think the foundation or the greatest fountain of passion lies in faith. The power of belief in God. The greater this power, the more passion wells up within you. It is not just a matter of words. This is the truth. From a different angle, faith means, God, I wish to accomplish my mission. I wish to serve you. I wish to be your hands and feet and live to realize utopia. Please lend me your strength. There is no reason for God to remain silent in response to the prayer. At this moment, your body will heat up and strength will well up inside you. Just when you think you cannot go any further, there is something strong that wells up from within. There is only one thing necessary to rouse your infinite and unending passion. That is, to not think about yourself too much, nor allow your pride, vanity, position, or the views and opinions of those around you to make you waver. Being unsteadied by these things comes from a self-centered way of thinking. It comes from thoughts that wish to protect the ego. At these times, you are going in the wrong direction. The direction you should take is upward. In other words, the direction you should take is toward God. Passion wells up in people who wish to take action for what is true and sacred. This is a miracle anybody can experience. When you wonder why you feel the blood in your veins burn with passion and why you feel a vigorous energy welling up inside you, know that this is a kind of miracle.
So yes, the answer is passion is how to overcome. So Master said, passion is what drives out the wedge called despair. And then before I was just saying about Carrie, I was just reflecting on that. And yeah, I didn't ever feel despair. I did feel passion. It made me want to go away and study the teaching more and find out the answer so that the next night I'd come back and have the conversation at the table. But he said the greatest fountain of passion lies in faith, the power of belief in God. And this is, I love these words here from Master. These are the last words for today. He said, from a different angle, faith means God. I wish to accomplish my mission. I wish to serve you. I wish to be your hands and feet to realize utopia. Please lend me your strength. What beautiful words, what powerful words. And then he said, there is no reason for God not to act on such a wish. If that is a pure, genuine wish in our heart or prayer to God in our heart, why would God ever not want to act on that wish? You know, in Happy Science, we do practice Qigans or ritual prayers. And always the teaching about them is to have no ego and to be pure in heart and to make sure that your Qigong is based on some desire, strong wish to do something to bring about utopia on earth. So it's not a self-centered wish, but a wish that's going to help God fulfill the mission of bringing happiness to all people, including ourselves, but to all people on earth. So this is very much the essence of that same way of thinking. You know, God, I wish to accomplish my mission. I wish to serve you. I wish to be your hands and feet to realize utopia. Please lend me your strength. And you know, to finish that up, what could be a happier way of life than living like that, right? When you have strong faith that there really is a God, this world's a temporary place to come to train our soul. We're going to return back to the other world. And I was born here to train myself and help build Buddha land utopia. What more could be a wonderful way to live than with that way of thinking at our heart? Yeah. So that's where, you know, our happiness leads to the happiness of others, and benefiting oneself benefits others. So anyway, that's the end of the actual today's talk on the power of passion. And as I said, I've got a little bit past, 10 minutes past, but I've got a 12-minute meditation, and it's on the contemplation for changing the destiny of our country. So if anybody would like to join in this contemplation, please do. It goes for 12 minutes.
When civilizations have a tendency to upward, there are a lot of light of angels at that date, at that area, in that country. What is the conditions for producing light of angels? We must answer this question. Light of angels have some kind of characteristics of making efforts and taking responsibilities about their own deed, and don't speak ill of others. and don't mind other people's responsibilities. So we now think again about what is duty. Duty is the human condition. What is the duty of humankind, human beings? Duty is to live for other people, to make happy or happier, and take responsibilities for their own living. Of course, for families and societies and countries, companies, you must make up your mind to take your responsibility. And people who can take a lot of responsibilities, wide responsibilities, heavy responsibilities, is a great man, and he is akin to light of the angel. If you want to develop and improve this country and culture and civilization of this country, you must think again about the condition of producing the light of angels. The light of angels don't think much of themselves. They are always thinking about the happiness of other people, and they feel pleased when they make other people happy. It's a little different from self-concentrated people. In Western civilization, there are delusions for over-competition to survival and to get money and to get promotion for your own sake. But the important thing is how you can make other people's happier, and it's a condition of light of angel. How many angels can you produce from now on? Decide the destiny of this country. People often choose to live for their own, and then choose self first and duty second, or no duty is good for them. It's all over the EU. It's a tendency of these areas. People are too much rely on their country or government and don't want to take responsibility. Self-help mind is essential. Please make up your mind to take responsibility, and you have a duty to make other people happier. Please think about that. And self second, please keep in mind self second, and it leads to the heaven, all of you. People who live in hell are apt to think self first and other people second, but it's an animal-like instinct. If you are human, you should feel responsibility regarding your family and neighbors and country. It's difficult, but it's just how to control your mind, how to make up your mind, how to decide, how to choose your life from now on. That needs only 1 second to make up your mind. What kind of decision do you choose? It opens your future, the door to your future.